Hello students. In this video we will be starting Unit 2 of Prose, the lesson True Friendship. We will divide this lesson into two sections. In this part we will understand the story. In the next part we will answer the questions. Before we go into the lesson, here is a warm-up activity. Task A. All of us have friends. Who is your close friend? What is special about your friend? Share it with your partner. Whenever such a task is given to you, you can try to form short and complete sentences so it is easy for you to express what your thoughts are. Next, listen to your teacher reading the story of Krishna and Sudama. Listening text on page 24. So we will come to this lesson soon. Then we will understand the story of Krishna and Sudama. Remember the story of Krishna and Sudama. Underline the words in the given box that refer to the qualities of a good friend. Here we have a box and you have to underline only those that are good qualities of a good friend. Cunning, helpful, angry, understanding, bad, generous, kind, rude, sensitive, impatient. Before you try to find the words, you can repeat it once aloud so you get the pronunciation properly. Now let us consider these words one by one. Do you think a good friend is cunning? No, a good friend is not cunning, but they are open about what is going on in their minds. Do you think a good friend is helpful? Yes. A good friend is definitely helpful. So this is the word we need to underline. Do you think a good friend is angry? Well, sometimes it is natural for all of us to get angry about something or the other, but a good friend is not angry with you most of the times. A good friend is definitely understanding. A good friend is not bad. A good friend is generous. A good friend is also kind, not just to you but to everyone. A good friend is not rude. A good friend is sensitive and they are not impatient. Now, let us start with the story. Listen carefully because this is an interesting story. Once upon a time, in the city of Syracuse, lived two friends, Damon and Pythias. So pronunciation of these words can be a little difficult. This is pronounced Syracuse or Syracuse. This word is Damon and this one is Pythias. Both of them were lovers of truth. So they were both very open-minded and they always believed in being honest and telling the truth. However, their king, Dionysius, so the pronunciation of this word is Dionysius, was an evil-minded ruler. So the king is not as good as these two, Damon and Pythias. Instead, King Dionysius was evil-minded. One day, the king heard Pythias had called him cruel and had said something against him. So the king heard one day that Pythias had called the king cruel and he had also said something against the king. So he got very angry. He announced that Pythias would be punished for this and hanged. So in that kingdom, apparently it was appropriate to hang someone if they spoke against the king. Which is why King Dionysius, he announced that Pythias would be hanged for speaking against him. So here we have a picture of Pythias and Damon in the court of King Dionysius. So the conversation that follows is going to be in the court of the king. Dionysius is on the throne. Pythias' hands are tied behind. Soldiers are on his either side. So this conversation, you can enact it with your friends and we have the dialogues of all the characters. So Pythias is standing in the court of King Dionysius and his hands are tied behind his back. So he is being held captive and soldiers are standing on either of his side. Pythias says, "O king, please allow me to go and meet my old mother and my sister before I die. I must arrange for my sister's marriage and bid goodbye to my mother. After that I will return. This is my last wish." So Pythias, because he is on the punishment for being hanged, he says he wants to meet his old mother and his sister one last time before he gets punished. He also says that he needs to arrange his sister's marriage and say goodbye to his mother. He says that this is his last wish. Do you think King Dionysius would agree to this? Dionysius says, "Impossible. I cannot grant your wish. How can I be sure that you will return?" So King Dionysius says, "We have already caught you now and you're about to be punished. If I let you go, how can I be sure you will come back? You can just escape and run away." So he says, "Impossible. I cannot grant your wish. How can I be sure that you will return?" Then Damon enters the scene. Damon says, "Sir, I am Damon and a true friend of Pythias." So observe here how he is introducing himself. You can learn something from this introduction. Whenever you are new to a conversation, you can say your name and you can give them some way to relate to you. So here Damon says, "I am Damon and a true friend of Pythias." So because Pythias is already in the scene, Damon is connecting to everyone in the scene through Pythias. Okay, so that is what you can learn about introducing yourself. Let's get back to the story. What is Damon saying? He is saying, "I am Damon and a true friend of Pythias. Please let him go to fulfill his last wish. I will remain in your custody until he returns." So because King Dionysius' problem was, if Pythias were to go out to meet his family, what if he doesn't come back? So Damon is saying, instead of Pythias, you can hold on to me. So keep me with you, and then when Pythias comes back, you can release him. Until then, I will remain in your custody until he returns. So King Dionysius thinks about it and he says, "All right, Pythias, but on one condition. I will fix the day and the hour of your return. If you do not return in time, your friend Damon will have to die instead of you." So King Dionysius, he thinks about it and he says, "Okay, I will keep Damon with me in your place, but I will fix the day and hour of your return. So I will give you a date and time if you do not come back to the palace. And if you do not substitute yourself for Damon within that given time, then Damon will be hanged instead of you." So Pythias was granted his last wish. He went home, completed his work and hurried back to Syracuse. So finally everybody agrees. So the situation is like this. Pythias committed a crime by talking against the king. Now King Dionysius has punished him and has sentenced him to death by hanging. However, Pythias' last wish was to go meet his family, and for him to have that last wish, Damon is in his position waiting for Pythias to come back. If Pythias does not return, then King Dionysius will have Damon killed. So what happens is he goes home, completes his work, says goodbye to his family, and he's hurrying back to Syracuse. So the word hurried means to come back quickly. He had to face many dangers, so he was delayed. So these dangers, they are not explicitly explained in the story. All we know is for some dangers he was delayed. On the fixed day, Pythias had not returned. So the date and time, that is the deadline given by Dionysius, has come. However, Pythias has not returned yet. As a result, Damon was taken to be hanged. So Pythias' true friend Damon, he is now taken to be hanged. Let us see what happens. In the court of King Dionysius, Dionysius is on the throne. Damon's hands are tied behind. Soldiers are on either side. So observe how this is the exact same situation as the beginning of the story, but in place of Pythias, it's now Damon. So similar to the first part of the story, Dionysius is on the throne, soldiers are on either side, but it's Damon whose hands are tied behind his back. Now King Dionysius is saying, "Where is your friend now, Damon? He has left you here to die. I'm certain that he will not return. You're a fool to be here in his place." So Dionysius is trying to convince Damon that Pythias has escaped and ran away. He's saying his friend has left Damon here to die. "I'm certain that he will not return. You are a fool to be here in his place." So he's saying because Pythias has fooled you. He has kept you in his place, put you in danger, and he has run away. Damon says, "You're mistaken. I know that Pythias will keep his promise. He will be back in time. Even if he does not come back, I will be happy to die in his place as I love him dearly." So Damon says that Pythias will never cheat him like that. He will be back to keep his promise in time. So Damon is still keeping hope that his friend Pythias will return in time. And even if he does not return in time, Damon is saying that he would happily die for his friend as he loves him dearly. So because Damon is Pythias' close friend, he is saying that he'll happily die in his place because he loves him dearly. Then suddenly, Pythias enters the court hall running, gasping for breath. Damon embraces Pythias and weeps. So here we have the diagram. Here we have King Dionysius on the throne. So this is King Dionysius. And here we have Pythias who came in running, gasping for breath. And here we have Damon and the soldiers who are holding him on either side. So Pythias enters the court in a hurry. So he's running so that he's not out of his deadline. He's running, gasping for breath. Whenever you run or whenever you do any exercise, you might be feeling breathless. So you might start taking breath in a fast rate, that is called as gasping for breath. And Damon embraces Pythias and weeps. Embrace means to hug. There's another word called embarrass. They may sound alike, but they're not the same. So embrace means to hug, whereas embarrass is to cause someone to feel awkward. So these two are different words, just an observation for you. Now let us get back to the story. Pythias has come running into the court hall and he says, "I have come. Please do not kill Damon. I have come back to take the punishment. Please hang me." So Pythias is saying, "I have come back. Now you can release Damon because he was just staying here in my place. Now that I'm here, you can release him." Damon says, "No, please hang me. If he were to be late, then I would have been hanged. So I am to be punished." So Damon and Pythias, because they are close friends, they do not want each other to die. Instead, they're saying, "Instead of hurting my friend, you can hurt me instead." So Pythias is saying, "I am the one who should be punished because it was my crime." Whereas Damon is saying, "If Pythias were late, you would have hanged me, right? So hang me now because I am to be punished." And both of them argued for some time, and at last King Dionysius says, "Never in my life have I seen such a friendship. Both of you have kept your promises. I am happy to know that such a friendship exists. I set you both free." So this is a happy ending to this story where King Dionysius realizes that such a friendship where both of them are ready to give lives for each other is very rare, and he decides to set them both free. So both Pythias and Damon are set free by King Dionysius. And that is the end of the story. Now, let us try to get to know the words to know. The first word is Syracuse. Syracuse is a city in ancient Greece. Next we have Pythias. So this is just the pronunciation. So before we go there, do you know where Greece is? Let me just show you on the map. So here is Greece. It is in southeastern Europe. And this is the flag of Greece. So Syracuse was a city in ancient Greece, and King Dionysius was its ruler in our story. The next word to know is evil-minded. Evil-minded means having bad or cruel thoughts. Next, impossible. So impossible is the opposite of the word possible. Possible means something can happen. Impossible means something that cannot happen. So an example sentence here is, it is impossible to see the sun rising in the west. So an example sentence. Okay, so it is impossible to see the sun rising in the west. Impossible means something that cannot happen. Next word, certain. Certain means sure. So you can use such words whenever you're having conversation with your friends. For example, if your friend asks you, "Can I please borrow your pencil?" You can say, "Sure." You can also say, "Certainly." Okay. Next we have fulfill. Fulfill means to do what is hoped for. In our lesson, we have Dionysius that says both of you have kept your promises. Instead of this, he could have also said both of you have fulfilled your promises. The word is actually used over here. Please let him go and fulfill his last wish. So Damon is saying he's requesting to King Dionysius to let Pythias go and fulfill his last wish. Fulfill means to do what is hoped for. Next we have the word loyalty. Loyalty means staying firm in friendship. So in this story we saw that both Pythias and Damon were loyal to one another. Next, execution. Execution means to put to death. So whenever somebody is sentenced to death by the governing body, it is called as execution. That is the end of the section words to know. Up next we have the vocabulary. Let us complete these two sections in this video, and for comprehension we can have the next video. Fill in the blanks with the words given in the box. Dionysius was a dash ruler. You can go back to the lesson and you can find out which of these words is correct fit here. You can pause the video if you need time to think about it. The answer is evil-minded. The next sentence is, Damon was to be dash until Pythias returned. So Damon was to be imprisoned. So in the place of Pythias, they strike a deal with Dionysius that Damon takes Pythias' place and is imprisoned till Pythias returns. Next we have Pythias faced many dangers while he was returning and was, so he could not return in time, so he was delayed. So he was delayed. Next, Damon was sure that his friend would never. So Damon was sure that his friend would never break his word. Break his word means to say something and then not fulfill it. So if you've promised somebody something and if you cannot hold that promise, it is said that you have broken your word. But Damon was sure that Pythias would never break his word. Pythias and Damon kept their. So Pythias and Damon, they kept their promises. They both were loyal to each other and they both kept their promises and neither of them broke their word. The next section is state whether the following statements are true or false. Write T for correct and F for incorrect in the space provided. Correct and rewrite the incorrect sentences. So the first statement is Damon and Pythias were lovers of truth. So the answer is this is true. We learned that they are both honest and they were both lovers of truth. Dionysius was a kind ruler. So we learned that Dionysius was an evil-minded ruler. Therefore, this is false. You have to rewrite it by replacing the word kind with evil-minded. Dionysius was a evil-minded ruler. Damon wanted to settle his family affairs before he died. Observe carefully, the sentence is saying Damon wanted to do it, whereas it was Pythias that wanted to settle his family affairs before he died. Therefore, this statement is false. The corrected form is you have to replace the word Damon by Pythias because it was Pythias that was supposed to get the punishment and he wanted to meet his family, say goodbye and arrange his sister's marriage before he died. Next, the king was sure that Pythias would return. The king was sure that Pythias would return. Is it true or false? It is false. There are two ways in which you can replace or correct the statement. You can replace this word, the king, by Damon. So Damon was sure that Pythias would return, or you can also say that the king was sure that Pythias would not return. Okay, the king was sure that Pythias would not return. Next, Damon was ready to die for his friend. This is a true statement. Finally, we have Pythias reached in time to save his friend. This is also true. Pythias did not reach on the day, but he reached in the hour. So he reached on time to save his friend. Next, we have comprehension. We will solve this in the next video. I will see you all in the next video.